Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith. Hanging out today with Molly Ringwald. Pleasure to have you in.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's talk about your new movie, All These Small Moments.
Yes.
I checked it out last night. Really interesting movie because it hits on things that may not be so comfortable to talk about in public, yet a lot of your conversations in the movie happen in very public places.
That's right.
So why was this movie the right time for you in your career?
I just really responded to the material. I play Carla, who's a mom, and I've played a lot of moms. I'm playing a mom on Riverdale right now, but usually the moms, or I should say very often, they're there simply to service the story of the guy.
Right.
And in this case, it wasn't like that. She's a fully formed character. She very much has her own thing going on, and she's not so nice. You know, she's like...
She lays it all out there.
She's a really good person, but she's in crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, her marriage is falling apart, and it's like the most she can do to sort of get up and put her mascara on and, you know, put her hair up. She's just trying to sort of get through the day. And I really love the honesty of that. I felt like it just really spoke to me. And all of the characters, you know, it's the movie is sort of perfectly named. It's All These Small Moments, and it's really just like all about the little moments that make up a day.
Yeah, and it's not one big moment that defines a family or defines a day.
No.
And I think that's the cool thing about the movie, because it almost seems like all these different scenes are just kind of patched together.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of the movie also. And so, you know, like we were saying, like setting plays a really big part in this.
Yeah.
So what was it like using these really public settings like a barbershop and a restaurant to have conversations about divorce and family and stuff like that?
Again, it just felt very real to me because that is where things happened. You know, I mean, if you want to look at some really awesome breakups, just go out to a restaurant on Valentine's Day.
Do some people watching, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's really where that's where stuff happens, and so that's another thing that just felt very real to me. And the movie has like a very interesting look, and Melissa Miller, who wrote it and directed it, had the idea for the movie when she was taking public transport, and she was sort of imagining the lives of these people. And so yeah, public transport plays a big part of this movie.
Yeah, especially when you see those people every single day, and of course in the back of mind you wonder what these people are all about,
Yeah.
but you never usually have the confidence to actually ask these people what their lives are going
Well, I
through.
don't know if Melissa actually asked anyone. I think this is all from her imagination. I think, but public transport and being in a public place and listening to people and getting snippets of conversation, and then you see someone's face and you imagine an interaction, you imagine a whole life, and I think that's how the movie was sort of created.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned Carla, your mom, you've played moms, but Carla's a different type of cat, which I think must have been a cool thing for you to do. So what were some of the challenges in playing that character?
I would say the biggest challenge for me was just sort of to let go of my vanity, which is hard for anyone, hard for me. You know, just really think like she doesn't have to look great. You know, it's really somebody who is just sort of doing the best that they can. She's just unhappy, and I feel like it was interesting to play a character like that.
Yeah.
And it was great to be able to play somebody where, you know, the director or whoever isn't always saying like, oh, well, can you do this a little softer? Oh, can you be a little nicer? You know, there was none of that.
That's great.
Even to the point where I was like, oh, there people are going to hate me. And I had these moments of like, oh, I'm going to be hated, you know. And it was interesting that I would have that reflex, but I just tried to be as like, truthful to her as possible. And I think people are going to recognize themselves.
Absolutely.
You know, the people that have gone through or are going through what Carla's going through, but also the kids, you know, what it's like to be in that situation where you're growing up and your parents are divorcing or they're not happy together, and sort of what it's like from their point of view. And that's what I love about the movie, is that it's constantly shifting into these different, the lens and the point of view is kind of shifting a little.
Yeah, and it's almost like an inescapability, because you have this stuff going on at home, and the kids are having stuff going on at school as well, and it's like your life is just caving in. You feel like you can't get away, and it almost feels claustrophobic, and that kind of really makes you it resonates with you a little bit more.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they called it a coming-of-age movie, and I felt like, yeah, but everybody's always coming of age all the time. Like, why should coming of age be the coming of age movie. Like I felt like the teen years were incredibly significant for me, but so were my 20s, and so were my 30s, and you know,
even now you're still evolving.
Yeah, there's all these different moments in your life where you're like, this is really heavy, and like, how am I going to get through this? Or what is this? Like, I've never felt this way before.
And it's interesting because whether it's your career or your life, you can use past experiences, but sometimes there's just new things that are coming up, and you just have to deal with it in the moment.
Yeah.
So you're not coming of age; you're just dealing with it right then and there.
Yeah. And also, you know, when you have kids, and I have 3. Then you're constantly, I always thought naively that my experience in, you know, in the teen world, the teen movies, you know, being a teen icon or whatever, would give me some sort of upper hand or some sort of special understanding of the teen psyche. And I don't.
Not at all?
No. I mean, you know, sometimes my daughter looks at me with this look like, oh, you don't get it, you know. And I'm like, did you just roll your eyes at me? Did you just roll your eyes at me? Like, that's my thing. But no, she has challenges that I never had. Right. You know, we didn't have an internet. We didn't have this constant barrage of social media and everything that comes with that. So I think the world is different. Also, we didn't have, you know, a crazy person as a president.
Yeah,
you know?
that's a whole nother thing.
There's that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's, you know, I'm experiencing things completely every day that are new just from watching them grow up. Yeah,
I think that's really fascinating because your teenage years, you obviously had a much different experience than other people, but even seeing it through your daughter who's having a different experience from you, I mean, being a parent today must be incredibly difficult. So, you know, what are the day-to-day challenges that you do experience?
I mean, mostly I think it's to get them away from the computer, to get them offline.
Do you limit their time?
I try, but you know, it's a little hard once you're in the teen years. I mean, also all of my kids are digital natives. They grew up with it. So any control that I try to put on, you know, my daughter can figure out a way around it, you know. So it's just trying to sort of give her the skills to sort of realize herself what helps her and what hinders. But those are also, I mean, it's not the same because I didn't grow up with social media and with internet, but you know, I understand how addictive it is and how it could be just, you know, sort of mind-numbing and relaxing in a way to just go online and just kind of check out, but it's really important, I think, not to. So, you know, there's sort of a bit of modeling that's involved, and I have to remember that too. I have a no devices at the table rule.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm figuring, like, if nothing else, we're just going to have this one meal where we all sit and we all, you know, talk about. We have a thing called Rose and Thorn, which is like we talk about like the highlight of the day. I try to do Thorn and Rose, so they kind of end.
So good and bad.
Yeah. So if you have a gripe, basically, that's your Thorn, and you're not required to have a gripe, but that's the place to do it. But then always end with something that you're happy about, and so there's a no device rule during that time, and they always try to get around it. But then sometimes I'll have like my phone, I'll just set it down on the table, and then they, no devices on the table, Mom.
But even if you hit in like one of 5 of those conversations, right? So say your kids are just forcing it, but like one of those thorns is something really important with what's going on today. I mean, that must be really fascinating for you to unpack that at the dinner table with your kids.
It's really interesting, and it's really interesting conversations in terms of what they pick up.
Yeah, like what's come up at the dinner table with your kids?
Well, one of my daughters, my younger daughter, Adele, is really she's become very into current events. And she has a really great teacher this year who talks to them about stuff that's going on. So she's really up on things. I mean, I think it's still 3rd grade, so they don't want to get too deep, you know. But I mean, I had to talk to her about the Kavanaugh hearings. I don't usually watch a lot of TV, but I was there from beginning to end, and I was very upset. I mean, I felt like I'd been through this, you know, watching Anita Hill, and to go through it again in that way, it was really upsetting. So I had to figure out a way to talk to her and to my son about it. And then the conversation that I had with my 15-year-old was different because she's in a different place, you know, in terms of her maturity level. But you know, they're pretty. I mean, I would say that the twins certainly they're pretty, you know, happy kids, I don't think that they dwell on the bad. They don't like Trump, you know.
Right.
They're excited for there to be more women in office, all of that stuff. But you know, they definitely all have their own ideas. Like my older daughter is more conservative than I am, at least right now.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I don't.
How did that happen?
I mean, what else do you do when you have a super liberal mom?
Go the other way.
She has to bug me in some way. But even I've realized lately she's become less so. But I think, you know, it's important to be able to have conversations and be able to talk to someone who has a differing point of view and to be able to have an intelligent conversation. So it really was interesting for me. It was definitely a learning moment for me to actually have that conversation and follow it through and not just shut it down, because I don't feel that way myself.
No, that's the way that you're being a good parent. She'll figure out what she believes. That'll change over time. You know, for me at 25, I feel a lot differently about the world and politics than I did at 18.
Oh yeah.
You know, because you're just kind of learning, putting your foot in there for the first time.
Yeah, sure.
And then you figure it out as you go along, you know?
Yeah, well sure, because as you grow up and as you go through life, you realize how this stuff directly affects your life or people that you know or people that you care about, you know, I think. I mean, I was much less engaged as a younger person, and it wasn't really until AIDS, when I had so many of my friends that were dying, that and realizing that the government at that time wasn't doing anything about it because they felt like it was just a gay disease.
So is that like the 90s we're talking about at this point?
This is like late 80s. I mean, AIDS, I would say, you know, when it first was on my radar in a serious way, I would say it was about 1986.
Gotcha.
And then it just kind of kept progressively getting worse and worse. So, you know, 80s, 90s, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy now that kids they think AIDS is something that's very far in the past.
This was very real for you.
Oh, it was very real. Yeah, it was just, I mean, it was like so many people that were just amazing people gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
No doubt about it. And like you said, like a moment like that, you know, so much has changed, but at the same time, certain things haven't changed.
Yeah.
Whether it's politics or movies or life. So when you think about your life, the movie business, like we were talking off camera, like you shot this movie in a really quick amount of time.
Yes.
So when you think about making movies in the 80s compared to making movies today, there's a lot of stuff that's different.
Yeah.
But like, what are a couple things that jump out to you?
I mean, I think the main difference is the luxury of the shooting schedule. I mean, I think we were in Chicago like for at least 2.5 months, maybe longer. We had a 2-week rehearsal period, and then we had the filming of the movie, and it was shot in sequence. We had that luxury because it was all basically one location. But that movie, if they made that movie now, it would be, you know, 18 days at most. We would be lucky to get 18 days if they even made that movie. I mean, there's so many movies that I love, you know, particularly all the movies from the 70s, that I just can't even see them getting made now. You know, so I think that's in one way how it's really changed. It's like these really enormous, huge budgets for these big, you know, I mean, I like superheroes as much as the next person. I mean, maybe not as much.
I'm the same way. I'm not as deep into it.
No, my son and my husband are really, they just love, you know, he's so into the Marvel universe. It's crazy. And I've always kind of liked more character-driven, which is, I think this movie, All These Small Moments, is so great. It's like sort of an antidote to all of those huge budget CGI movies, because after a while, it's like, yeah, but like, where are the people that I recognize, you know, myself in? Right,
because you can rinse, repeat with those movies, but here's a one-off and a beautiful movie that everybody can connect to, and you're going to remember that movie, whereas you may not think of the next Marvel movie in the same way.
No, the Marvel movies are fun, for sure, and as, you know, superhero movies are, but it's, you know, after a while, they it's sort of like, no, wait, what was that? Which one was that?
Right, like the Star Wars movies, there's so many at this point, and you got to go all the way back. It's like, all right, we can appreciate these, but let's come up with something new.
No, and I really want to see original films.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just dying for that. I'm just so hungry for that, and I feel like if I am hungry for that, I feel like other people must be too.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's a good segue into you doing some writing now. So who are some people that have influenced you with your writing, whether it's The New Yorker or whether it's your screenwriting? Who are people that you like to look to?
Oh, there's so many. You know, off the top of my head, I think Toni Morrison was a big influence for me. We happen to have the same birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
as does John Hughes, weirdly.
Interesting.
It's
funny how it all
18th.
connects. Yeah.
Who else? I really love James Salter as a writer. I mean, none of these people I necessarily write like, but they're people that I really like to read. My husband, Ponyo Giannopoulos, is also a writer and an editor. So, you know, we're those sort of word nerds that will sit and talk about, you know, how to use, you know, should we do commas or serial commas, you know, or semicolons? And my daughter's like, are you really, really having that conversation right now?
With an eye roll in there too.
Yeah. I was talking to my husband and I was like, are we those people now that were like, you would just listen to your parents and go, God, they're so boring. Why are they talking about that? And he's like, yeah, maybe we're those people. But
maybe a little bit.
But you know, we were still the same way, you know, 18 years ago. We always just like to talk about words, and, you know, when you're passionate about words and writing, you know, you tend to seek out the same people.
Definitely.
That are interested.
So I think what's cool about your life and your career, you've had a couple different chapters. So when you think about yourself as a teenager to where you are now, how do you remain consistent in this crazy entertainment world?
I don't know. I think for me, the most important thing is just to keep evolving and to continue to do things that interest me. Right now, I'm really happy in terms of where I'm going, you know, in terms of the work that I've been doing and also the work that I've been creating on my own. I just finished the first project that I really am excited about directing.
Nice.
And
that's awesome.
I wrote it, and I'm going to direct it, and I feel like the next wave is going to really be about me creating my own material, in addition to doing other people's stuff, but that's really kind of what really excites me right now.
Definitely, and I feel like a lot of actors and actresses have this situation where they create other people's visions, but they come to a certain point where they're ready for their vision. So when did that happen for you?
I mean, I think it's been happening for a long time, but I think, I mean, I just finished a screenplay a couple days ago, and I've been working on it for a really long time. I also feel like the tide has changed in the last couple of years, especially, you know, with Time's Up, with Me Too. There's been a big light that's shined upon the fact that women have not been able to tell their stories. Not just women, but, you know, any minorities, you
women,
know,
yeah, everybody.
If you weren't on a list, if you weren't a guy, I mean, guys were just allowed so many bombs. They were allowed such bad behavior and could keep working, whereas women just didn't have that luxury at all, which kind of doesn't really encourage you to have take a lot of risks. And that's really what you want. I think that's always what's been interesting to me, is to constantly do different things. I just translated a book, speaking of different things,
from French
into English. That's Scribner's. It's going to be out in April, and that was a huge challenge. And I just really like to do stuff that I didn't know that I could do, and then to find out that I can actually do it.
Yeah, it's one thing to, you know, go around saying like, get uncomfortable or be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? But then you actually do it, and then you prove it to yourself, which is a cool thing, because a lot of people like to talk, but you're actually executing, which is awesome.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's to me what really makes life and my work exciting.
Definitely. So when people check out this movie, we talked about it a bunch, but what are a couple main thoughts you want them to walk away thinking?
I would just like it if people go to see it or watch it, because it's going to be available on VOD on the 18th, January 18th.
And theaters the 17th, right?
And selected theaters on the 17th. And I really would just love it if people just see themselves in the movie or see someone that they know. Because I think that that's really when art really speaks to you, is when you have that incredible shock of recognition. So I think people are going to do that.
I want to ask you about Brooklyn, because a lot has changed in life, and Brooklyn has certainly changed. So what was the coolest part about filming in Brooklyn?
It just has a cool vibe to it. I mean, just Brooklyn. I never lived in Brooklyn. But you know, of course, I have tons of friends that do. But it just has a certain kind of vibe. You know, Brooklyn for the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, I think has really come up, and it definitely has that look. And Melissa, the writer-director, has a background in art direction, so she was very specific about the whole look of the movie. And and having it, you know, be aesthetically pleasing, but also have it be real. And I think that it definitely is. Like the apartment really seems like a real apartment that belongs to this family.
Yeah, real mother, real apartment, real moments.
Yeah.
Awesome. Molly, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. You can catch all these small moments out in theaters January 17th, VOD January 18th. We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.